Hello, everyone. I'm Ron Ameln from SBM St. Louis, and we are honored today to be with Debi Corrie. Debi is the owner and CEO of Acumaxum, a strategic CFO company. And we're talking with Debi today because she has written a great book called Loving Failure, Getting Control of Your Business Health. And we're going to talk about that book a little bit today. Debi, thank you for joining us.
I'm very excited to be here, Ron. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, let's get started. But before we talk about the book, tell us about how you help business owners, what it is you do.
So what I am is I'm a strategic CFO. And so what that means is I help business owners get to their future financial goals. And I do that by helping them increase cash in their business, improve company profits, and I work with companies that want to scale. So I help them with their future. So a lot of people have great accountants and CPA firms and tax people they work with, and those people deal with the past. My job is to help the owner learn about those numbers and get to his future with them.
I love it. I love it. And it's a great book. And one of the great things about the book is it's really a fundamental look at the numbers of your business. Mm-hmm. And I know as a business owners typically are not very good at knowing the insides and outsides of their numbers. And that makes it difficult to make managerial decisions and make really tough strategic decisions if you really don't understand your numbers. So I want to congratulate you on writing a book that focuses on the numbers, because you don't see that very often, and in a way that you don't have to be an accountant to really get something out of the book. Because as a business owner, I'm not an accountant, but I am responsible for the numbers of my business. And so I loved reading the book, and because it was written for me. It wasn't written for an accountant. So I really appreciate how you wrote the book and how it was directed at business owners in order to let them know how they can understand their numbers to run their business better.
Yeah, the reason I wrote the book, Ron, was because of my grandfather. So my grandfather was a plumber. He actually served in the war. He was a Navy cook in World War II, and he got out, apprenticed as a plumber, and started his own business. And he had a couple guys that worked for him, got to be age 62 and decided he was going to retire. And when my grandfather hit retirement, he had a cottage on the lake, owned his home, owned his shop. And he did what a lot of business owners do. He thought he was just going to close up his shop. And he grew up in the Depression. So for people that don't know, when guys retired during the Depression, they only lived a couple years and they died. So my grandfather had lived a good life and thought he would be dead in a couple of years, hadn't planned for his retirement at all, hadn't saved money, and he thought he was going to live on Social Security. And that would have been okay if he had filed tax returns or claimed that he actually made money. Because your Social Security income is based on the earnings you claim. And so, unfortunately, he lived to be age 82, and by the time my grandfather died, he had lost everything he'd ever worked for in his entire life. And here was this big, strong, proud man that became a ward of the state because he just didn't understand the options he had and the things he could do. And that's the heart of the reason I wrote the book and why it was released on Veterans Day.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, let's get to the heart of the book. And we, in our December SBM issue, we have a profile on you and the book, and we dive a little deeper into the book. But tell us the 5 key takeaways you want readers to get from the book.
And that's a great question. And I think the first and foremost thing is every business needs a line of credit. And a line of credit is critical for working capital and making sure that you have enough cash and cash reserves in your business. And you need to get that line of credit when you don't need it, because bankers are risk adverse and they're not going to loan you money unless they believe you can pay it back. So the time to get it is when you don't need it. I know that sounds silly, but that's when you go and get those. And it's really important to the cash flow of the business. The second thing is you've got to look at your numbers once a month. And sometimes for business owners, that is very scary, right? But we've got to know the facts. And once we know how the business did, we can make decisions and adjust what's happening to either increase profits or cash flow. And that's really important. And then thirdly, you've got to have a plan to reach those goals. So a lot of times what happens as business owners is we're so busy working in our business, we forget to work on our business and have a plan to get to where we want to go. And really successful business owners also have a strategic team that helps them get there. And players on that team could be their lawyer, their business lawyer, their wealth lawyer, their wealth, financial wealth manager who's helping them with their personal wealth, right? Their CPA, their bankers, a very important part of that. And of course, I'm going to tell you a strategic CFO to organize all those people is equally important. So, and lastly, use numbers to help get more out of your employees. There are a lot of complaints about the millennial workforce, and it's really funny because they got right what boomers were trying to get right for a long time. They understand how to differentiate work and play, and they're very technology savvy, and they can do great things when they understand what it is your company's trying to accomplish. So help them with some key numbers, and it talks about it in more depth and detail in the book so they can contribute and play, and you'll have a great company culture and team.
Let me go back and ask you some questions about some of these. The line of credit, you talked about the importance of a line of credit when it comes to your cash flow. Explain that a little bit, because I'm thinking that if I don't have a line of credit and I get into a cash crunch, I might have to do things that I really don't want to do, or make decisions that I don't want to have to make because I don't have that cushion during some slim, tough times. Is that correct?
That's correct. So a line of credit is a temporary loan from the bank that you eventually pay back. A line of credit isn't used, to go buy equipment or a truck or, something that you can get a long-term loan on. A line of credit is used to help your temporary cash flow to meet payroll or the rent when something happens in your business where the cash flow just isn't there for a short period of time. And without that in place before you need it, you can't get it. It's really important. It's one of the biggest mistakes I see companies make, because a lot of times they don't want to have loans, and there are good ways to use loans and cash flow in your business.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I can speak for our business. You typically don't have cash flow issues, but during March and April this year, when COVID hit, a lot of our customers were holding on to their cash just because they didn't know where the COVID thing was going, how long this was going to last. And so we all of a sudden had a little cash crunch there where we never have before, because our customers were holding on to their cash, just kind of waiting to see where this COVID thing went. And then as that kind of subsided, then we started getting that cash in that we should have got in a month or two before. So you never know, when it's going to happen or what industries are going to be affected.
It's true. And, the country in general, and the economy in general, every 10 to 15 years has some event. This pandemic, of course, is not an event that's typical and something that we've seen before, but there's always something that happens. And so that line of credit is really important because it can help you during those times.
The other thing I wanted to talk to you about was one of the things that you mentioned were the numbers, and looking every month at the numbers. What numbers should we be looking at each month, and how can that help us make better decisions as owners of businesses?
Well, the numbers we should be looking at every month are our profit and loss statement and the balance sheet. And a lot of times the balance sheet is very confusing for business owners, but it has a lot of meat on it. It shows you, what you're going to collect in cash in the future with accounts receivable. What do you owe currently to creditors with your accounts payable? And then it's like the missing piece to the profit and loss statement, because I can't tell you how many times I run across a business owner and they're like, Debbie, I don't understand what's going on. I make money every month, but I don't have money in the bank. And so that balance sheet is missing where there are uses of cash on it and collections of cash.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that's something that your book really tries to do, is get owners inside their numbers to try to see what's going on. I know a friend of mine owns a business, has about 50 employees, and she went from 2 million a year in sales to 3 million a year in sales in 1 year. I mean, a huge leap in 1 year. And yet she went from a profit of 200,000 to a profit of 100,000. She gained $1 million in sales and she lost 100,000 in profit. And she had no idea, because she didn't really understand her numbers. She had no idea what was happening in her business. And so she brought in a CFO who came in, really kind of dissected the numbers, and it was her cost of goods sold. Her cost of goods sold went out of control, because as they ramped up and got 1 million more in sales, what they didn't do was train their employees. They were bringing in all these new
Mm-hmm.
employees. They weren't training them well. There was a lot of bad work going out the door that was coming back in, and their cost of goods sold, because they didn't have a great system, that was just killing them. And she didn't know that. She didn't understand that until, she brought someone in who really helped her. Because the one thing you don't want to do as a business owner is you don't want to do all that work to bring in more revenue. And then at the
Right.
end of the day, you look and you're less profitable with all that work being done. So, and I think that's one of the things that your book really does, is kind of explain all those things, to give you kind of a view of the entire playing field of, what's really going on in my business.
Well, I think you say something, especially when companies are in growth mode, that's a really important time to get outside advice and people to help you, because, you don't know all the answers as a business owner. You started your business in typically one or two areas of expertise and things that you're brilliant at. And what you want these outside experts to help you with is the things that you don't know, so you can find out what's going on with your cost of goods sold, or have good contracts set up with these new customers and the new business you bring in, or, have a banker to help you finance or increase your line of credit because you need more money to purchase products, right, that you're going to sell.
Right,
So,
right.
getting those people on your team to help you is just night and day, instead of you having to carry all that burden yourself.
Well, and you've seen, from a CFO's vantage point, you've seen business owners who don't understand their numbers very well, and those who do. What kind of competitive advantage does a business owner who does understand their numbers, or gets some help to understand them? What kind of a competitive advantage does that give them?
It's a huge competitive advantage, because a lot of times they'll have more cash. And so when you have more cash, you can invest in your infrastructure, you can invest in your employees. And you'll hear me talk about, to be successful over and over again, employees, it's the biggest expense we have, right? We put this huge investment in our payroll and hiring people, and then we just expect them to go out and read our minds, right, as business owners, and go do all the things that we need them to do. And so you'll find when you give people budgets and numbers, or two or three things that they're accountable for in the numbers, they want to be successful and really do that. But when you don't give them a scorecard or explain how that's going to work, then you don't get the results you want. So I think, I told a business owner one time that numbers affect every department of their business. And they're like, no, accounting's just that one department that's over here. And I think
Right,
when you
right.
understand that, and that there's people behind every number, and you get them together, that's where the owners become very, very successful. So they're not afraid to share some information with employees. They don't have to share the bottom line and their net profit, but they're willing to share numbers and how everybody contributes.
Well, fantastic. And so the book is called Loving Failure, Getting Control of Your Business Health. And it's written by Debi Corrie. She's owner and CEO of Acumaxum. And she's featured in our December issue. So you want to check that out. You can go to sbmon.com for more information about that. And so, Debi, if we want to get the book, what's the easiest, best way to get a hold of the book?
So the book is actually on Amazon, and you can go right there and you can get it by ebook or a softcover or hardback.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for writing the book. I thought it was a great book, and I'm sure it's going to help a lot of business owners understand their numbers better.
And that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping to reach a lot of owners and help them stop and think about their futures and where they want to go.
Well, congratulations on the book, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron.